think in Japan, like they had like
Japan.
robots that were playing string instruments. And it made me feel very confident, actually, because like our job is safe for now. Those robotics sound like dying cats.
With Claude Cowork, right, we can go literally download skills now and be like, oh, you now have the skill of resume writing. But like a human being, in my opinion, is more than the sum of those parts or skills.
Smart girl. Dumb questions.
I'm Nayeema Raza. This is Smart Girl Dumb Questions. And today I'm joined by the amazing Grammy-winning band ARKAI. I'm here with violinist Jonathan Miron. Hello.
What's up?
And cellist Philip Sheegog.
Hey.
Last time the three of us were hanging out together, all three of us, we were on stage at the National Sawdust, this beautiful space in Brooklyn. The Grammy Museum had invited you to perform. So I'm going to play you a little moment of that. We love them both. Who knew that string instruments could be so sexy, guys? I had no idea. You guys have had an epic year. You have played the Emmys, the Governor's Gala. You were playing with Lindsey Sterling. You played with the Lakers, not basketball, thankfully. I feel like that deserved more laughs, by the way, the Lakers joke. I mean, I know you're a fan.
We laughed on stage.
You had also just come out with your sophomore album, Bright Side. And now, it's not even 5 months later, and you've won a freaking Grammy. When you're sitting in those seats at the Grammys, are you actually enjoying the performance? Or are you just like every 5 minutes, like worrying about your potential rejection?
Every 5 minutes, every second. It's
Really?
like, oh, my God.
We were like, I think the fifth from the end, something like that, of a probably 3.5 hour ceremony. There's like 95 Grammys or something. So we're like 90th or something like that. So we're just, trying to practice all of those, controlled breathing, everything, and trying to enjoy it.
So they have two ceremonies. They have the premiere ceremony,
Yeah.
which is the 3.5 hour long ceremony where the majority of Grammys get handed out. And then they have the telecast, which is where Song of the Year, Best New Artist, all those.
As soon as the first one finishes, you got to book it over to the next one. It's a long day. And the real secret for anyone who's ever going to the Grammys is bring your own food, because it is a marathon of a day.
And they don't really have really great food options. So like you're going from Peacock Theater
to the Crypto.
To Crypto?
Crypto Arena. Yeah, it used to be Staples Center.
Crypto Arena now. They don't give you food, and they don't make the Grammys real gold. Things are tight. I mean, Jonathan, you have had, I think, since 2018, is it a memo, a document, something saying that you were going to win a Grammy?
Oh, you mean my strategic plan that I put together?
Yes, your strategic
plan. Did I say
this
is 2018? I guess so, because that's when we started.
Wow, you were dreaming big from the get-go.
I didn't have a Grammy on the. I said maybe at some point, but I do remember the last time I updated it before looking back. It was 2 years ago, and I had said within 5 years we would get nominated or something like that, and we did it within 2.
Brush that shoulder off.
It felt pretty good, It's it's an amazing thing. I think everybody, who wants to dream big should go and create a strategic plan, because I look back and it's we actually achieved and exceeded all of those goals that we set out years ago. And maybe we were manifesting it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, does this mean manifesting is real? Vision boards work?
I believe in manifestation.
Or if nothing else, kind of what you aim at determines what you see and the direction of your action.
Okay. So after 3 hours of 60 minutes where you're every second.
And
so
our
that's
blood
60,
pressure is steadily rising.
Yeah. So that's 60 times 60 times 3, which is what? Over
9,000, 10,800.
Yeah.
Nice.
10,800. Well,
Thanks,
get that.
Mom.
If you're good at music,
Smart.
are you genuinely good at math? Does that always happen?
There are a lot of people, I believe in that because at least when I was playing classical music and you're reading music off a page, I saw everything in numbers. 1, 3, 5 shifts there. But I'm
so when
I know
looking,
I didn't answer the math question just now, but I'm actually math was one of my strongest subjects back
But
in
on
the
the
day.
other side, right, all of music and especially rhythm all divides down to 2s and 3s. So there are some musicians who say I only need to count up to 3 and then I'm good.
So these 10,800 seconds that you're sitting there wondering about your own potential rejection, were you shocked? What's the emotion? We'll play the clip of you winning.
It was just surreal. It really was surreal. I don't know if we were. I think we were shocked. I think there was an element of shock of holy crap, we did it. There's no other feeling like that.
We got on Kalshi.
You were on Kalshi? Of course I know what Kalshi is. What do you think?
We were on Kalshi that morning. A friend sent it to us.
What was the chances?
60%.
No.
Yeah.
You guys were 60%?
60%.
Did you put money on your own?
No, I did not bet money.
Look at what's happened to the Grammys.
But I feel like that was
What's happened? But who's betting on that?
I know.
I should have put money. I would have bet on you. Do you think your parents bet on you?
No.
I don't think they know what Kalshi is.
I don't know. My parents definitely don't know what that is.
By the way, what's happening to the Grammys? It's like it's crypto arena. It's Kalshi betting. This is not what they envisioned in like the 1950s when they set this up or whatever.
But I think we were totally shocked. We had no idea. I mean, just watch the video. I mean, you can see our faces. Like, see how we like leapt up and we like gave each other the biggest high five, and then we like pranced like to the stage, and I'm like just on stage shaking. It was great.
I just want to know how you win it. And I don't want the like you get to Carnegie Hall by practice kind of thing. I want to know, like, what is the process like?
It's a crazy process. I mean, obviously you need an amazing project, countless hours, blood, sweat, and tears, all those things. And so you need a really, really good album product that speaks to people. There's a community of voters there made up of, I think it's over 15,000 voters, incredible musicians, producers, managers, you name it, label executives, all these things.
It's like a jury by your peers. It's like a criminal court.
Just like criminal court.
But for people who are good at music.
And so like they know their stuff, and then you need to find a way to make sure they hear it. Otherwise, like there's no chance. And so there is a campaign of sorts.
You guys are like presidential candidates.
It's very much, it's like a political campaign where, everybody knows who's at the top of the ticket. Everyone knows who's running for president and senator and all of that. And so that's kind of like the big categories, right? Everyone knows who they want to vote for best new artist or record of the year. And then you go further down the ticket and it's like, who's running for state comptroller? I don't even know what state comptroller does, but I saw Jenny's lawn sign. And so, at least I know a name, and maybe I'll go go study a little further.
Yeah, like we won for best contemporary instrumental album. There are people that live in that world.
Is there a secret sauce that you learned through the kind of funnel from, because I mean, I think what the Grammys have published on their page is like, there's a submission process, then there's a screening process, then there's a nomination process, and then there's final voting. So going from submission to getting screened, does everyone get screened?
Yes. Every project gets looked at by a committee that essentially make sure that it's in the right category, right?
And then and then the nominations happen. Are you campaigning to get the nomination, or do you start campaigning once you have the nomination? Are you like Gavin Newsom, like you're already out there putting the stuff out, or are you waiting?
No, it's like in our category, there were hundreds of people that submitted in our category. Yeah. We had no idea that, you have to campaign for that first round as well. Oh, wow. It's crazy. I mean, it's a big process. And I guess to go back to your question, like, what have I learned about it is that like, it really is a democratic process. It really is like one voter equals one vote for your project. And it really creates a sense of possibility for indie artists. Obviously, like for a best new artist or artist of the year, whatever, like those campaigns are massive and you have big teams and it's a little bit more tailored for the smaller categories, but it's the same process.
They can host bigger parties. They can send their lawn signs to more yards or whatever.
Right.
You guys are independent. You own all of your music, right?
Yeah, exactly. The whole record was the two of us, basically, right? We wrote the music, of course, but we also recorded it here in New York, engineered it, mixed it, produced most of it. We had some amazing producers who added their special pixie dust on a couple of the tracks, but it was basically Jonathan and me from start to finish. And then, right, getting the record out, not just for the Grammy campaign, but even just to share it with the world and to find fans, the entire marketing side of things.
Yeah.
The music videos that we shot and made for the record, all those things. It's been a labor of love, but it's been a two-man team basically.
What's more exhausting, kind of the music and performing part, the ARKAI part, or the politics and the Gavin Newsom part?
For me, the ARKAI part is infinitely more fun, right? Being an artist, right? Being in the studio and getting to create music. That for me that's why I do it.
Yeah.
I think, the industry requires both.
Yeah.
And so that's a very Gavin Newsom political answer that I'm giving you.
I was going to say, you should run for office now, yes.
But at the same time, like nothing really happens without the other.
Without the business side of it,
no,
kind of
absolutely
moving around.
Not.
Yeah.
You could be playing
and
in your
accolades.
bathroom and like, what does that do? Like, well, I mean, social media now has changed the game.
You could become a huge TikTok star if you play in your bathroom.
If we just did bathroom songs.
If you're wearing the right outfit or not wearing the outfit.
That's right.
That's the
right.
path.
So the game has changed a little bit.
Now that you have won, are you part of the Recording Academy?
Yeah, so we've been voting members for 3 years now and learning about the process, but also learning that the Recording Academy is a lot more than just the awards.
Right.
That's the thing that everybody knows externally, but there's so much work that they do. A lot of work around advocacy, right? Fighting for musicians' rights, literally helping pass legislation in DC.
What legislation are you
AI
advocating?
legislation, I think is the biggest right now. Yeah.
See you for more Smart Girl Dumb Questions after the break.
Jonathan, I want you to talk a little bit about because your parents not only, I mean, you were not born in the States.
No, my mom is from Taiwan. My dad is American. So I was born in Taiwan. I moved to Singapore when I was 4 years old. And when I was 9 years old, my mom literally moved with me from Singapore to Cincinnati, Ohio, so that I could study music. So my parents did long distance for 4 years, just so that I could study music at the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. And then after that, we went from Cincinnati to New York. And so I've been in New York since I was in high school.
And then tell us about then, you know, Philip has this amazing story of getting the cello and you become an amazing cellist and you guys hang out at Juilliard together, or you actually don't hang out. You're at Juilliard at the same time.
Definitely didn't hang out because
No?
we were opposites. Well, for one, Jonathan was a couple years ahead of me. So we overlapped by a few years, but we weren't immediately in the same classes. But we were probably still, even despite that, Juilliard's a tiny school. It's like 700 students. But the reason I say we definitely didn't meet at Juilliard is because we were completely opposite kinds of students. I was the goody two-shoes. I was literally an RA for 4 years. I stayed in the dorms all 6 years. Loved my time there. But I was that goody two-shoes, taking all the extra classes, being teacher's assistant for the ear training program on like student government.
Preparing for the Grammy campaign.
Preparing for the campaign, but I was not very cool.
Yeah. And what were you? Were you just like a complete reckless? Like, what were you? A reckless child?
wreck.
What were you doing? Were you a train wreck? What was happening?
I always kind of put my focus into the things that I loved, and so there were classes at Juilliard that I really invested in, but I really cared about like stuff that was happening outside of Juilliard, and so I really. It's a very competitive place. I really didn't want to spend too much time in the actual building, and so I kind of left and had New York City as my campus.
Yeah.
He also hosted really cool house parties that I definitely would never have been at.
You weren't even invited to? Oh my gosh, this is like Mean Girls, but for people in music school. There you are at the Harvard of Music, Juilliard. And how do you like lay eyes on each other?
Well, there was some cinematic, beautiful like love songs playing in the background.
The door opened at the end of the
and
hallway.
then the wind blew. The
doves were released.
And then yes, it was like both Philip and I got nominated by Juilliard to represent them at a conference that was held at Juilliard. And one day after our classes, there was a party. We had our instruments with us, and we started to jam. And for people who don't know what jamming is, it literally means like making music up on the spot. So we were kind of like the DJs for this party. And you can betcha that we weren't jamming in the style of Mozart and Beethoven. We were both classically trained. We were jamming on like classic rock songs, pop songs. And to like be in that moment and to meet another classically trained student at Juilliard who could jam across styles was a really beautiful, eye-opening moment for us. And so this jam lasted over an hour. We went on a big journey. The whole room was like dancing and singing and having a great time. And that was our lightning in a bottle.
Well, I
moment.
love it.
So,
this is better than a rom-com. I love it.
And the music,
This is like The
it
Notebook.
really was the wind and all that.
And then the lights turns on and the soft glow.
So-
Yeah.
And at that point, were you on like a classical violin and a classical cello? Or
we were still purely
you were just
acoustic
pure.
players. And that's the thing that made it not only such a beautiful connection, but also such an exceedingly rare connection.
Yeah.
Is because at least, Juilliard is a conservatory. And so you're primarily studying, the masterworks of Western European literature, which is amazing. But you don't learn how to jam. You don't really learn how to stretch yourself into these other lanes of thinking. And so to meet someone else who was playing in that way was indicative that we both had been on these journeys outside of our training, right? That was clearly fueled by a personal curiosity. And so that's what made it even more eye-opening of like, I didn't even know someone else at school thought this way or could play this way.
So who asked who out first after that?
Oh, please.
And just to clarify, for anyone listening or watching who's confused, these guys are not together, actually.
You're fueling the fanfic.
Exactly.
I call Philip my work wife.
Yeah.
But I asked Philip out first.
Yeah. You have an actual wife.
I have an actual wife. She's
Victoria.
awesome.
She's lovely.
Who I actually knew first.
It's kind
Not
of
romantically,
and
and also good at two shoes.
And you know what? The crazy thing is that I actually met my real wife, Victoria, around the same time that I met Philip. So going back to like what you were saying, like just life just take off.
So you're polyamorous.
So I'm polyamorous, and life just changed in a few weeks for me. And I asked Philip out first. So I got this opportunity to perform at a conference that was held in New York, hosted by Barack Obama's sister.
What?
And it brought together like incredible peace builders and professionals from around the world. And I had a 5-minute slot to perform there. So like Gandhi's grandson was there. Like there were students from Parkland, right after the shooting that were there. And I had this 5-minute slot, and I was like, what the heck am I gonna play and perform at this thing that's actually meaningful, that lives up to the meaning of this conference? And fresh in my mind was the jam that I had with Philip and that magical sound that kind of, went beyond boundaries and genres. And I was like, well, let me call up Philip.
Yeah.
And I called Philip up, and I was like, dude, you want to write our first piece ever for this conference hosted by Barack Obama's sister? And he said yes. We played our first show, which was at this conference. And then after the show, the audience just came up to us, and they were just so jazzed and touched by our music. And they kind of talked to us like we had been doing this for a really long time. And we went along with it. It was like, our duo has just been, we've been working really hard and playing all over the place.
It's like an all-nighter the night before kind of thing.
So working really hard.
This is the most meaningful performance we've given.
Yes, it was true. Factually.
It is very true.
And it led organically to so many other opportunities down the line that were quite big, actually.
You know why I love this story? Actually, one, I did not know the story, really? So I love this story because I didn't know the story. But two, the reason I actually love the story is because you had a chance to go perform at this fancy thing, and you were like, let me do this with somebody. It's going to make it better to do it with somebody. And I think that's really sometimes rare, because when people are sometimes given a spotlight, it's hard to share or build something with somebody else. And I think it's just cool that you knew the music was that much better, like the product of it together.
I think I was still probably radiating from that jam that we did. And I saw how the collective moved the entire room that we were in, and that was just really powerful.
I want to get to how you guys work together and kind of the discography, but before we get there, Philip, I want to do a lightning round. I'm going to start with you. So quick things. First of all, is there beef historically between violins and cellos, or between violinists and cellists?
No, but cellists just know, to let the violinists do their own thing, because they're chill and the violinists are usually too uptight. And just generally have bigger egos, but the cellists are just the chill hang at the party. So
sounds like there's a little bit of beef there.
Yes. Jonathan, does size matter in instrumentation?
You mean, no, because our instruments are equally powerful. They just do different things,
Are the sizes of your instruments, Philip, correlated inversely to the sizes of your... No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we're each other's work wives.
So do you guys think a violinist can ever be, or a cellist can ever be as sexy as a guitarist? You guys have groupies, I want to say. You guys have groupies.
Definitely.
Right? You have fans.
Yeah.
And people are like, there's some... So where does that come from? What is it about string? I don't know. What is it that makes
string playing? I think it's incredibly tactile, right? It's a very physical instrument. In some ways, way more than guitar, right? That's just my observation, right? The range of motion that we have to do as string players, right? And you're showing, you're using your body in a lot of ways. I think can be a very attractive instrument.
So you never regret not being a drummer at this point?
Well, I've adapted, so I've now tried to slap and hit, and
He's a percussion player.
I meant
That's true. You do slap and hit when you perform and play, and you might do that. Why is it that every lead singer is also a guitarist? Are they actually a guitarist, or do they just hold that to feel useful on stage?
I think a lot of them do play. I think it's just a natural thing to be a singer-songwriter and you're playing the guitar while you sing.
Yeah.
I think that's just how it's worked, and it's a very sexy thing to be. So that's kind of what's happened.
Okay, last lightning round question. Are bands out? Because I feel like there used to be so many bands in the 90s, the 2000s,
I think bands will come back and are starting to come back. And I think part of that, and this is a opening to a much deeper rabbit hole, but I think the idea and the feeling of having a group of people live on a stage is going to be increasingly, that authenticity is going to be increasingly desired as we have more and more things that are artificially created. And as we have, if we think of the last couple decades as, the sound of pop has been kind of dominated by things made in the studio, right? It's like electronic drums, and we love all that stuff. But I think the idea of those four people are playing instruments on the stage, and I feel that. I think that's going to be increasingly people want that.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially with AI down the pike, but and also I think there's been something about kind of small screen and everything broadcast on social 24/7 that has led to this kind of hyper individualistic, I did it myself kind of culture. I always joke that Guy Raza's podcast, How I Built This, should be called How We Fucked This Up. It's usually collective and a quite painful process, But I hope that bands are making a comeback, because it feels like we're in the age of the solo artist now for a decade plus. And how many people do you have to be a band?
I don't know. You introduced us as a band.
You're a band, right? I was thinking if that was right.
I think so. I think we think of ourselves as a band.
It's a band. Yeah, duo was very descriptive because it lets people know that it's not for people. But it's we're an ensemble.
So I want to know, at what point did you guys decide that you were going to take your classical violin, your classical cello? If you're not seeing this, you should watch it on YouTube, because these instruments they've become electronic. So at what point did you adapt the instruments or your own playing, or tell me how that changed?
So we can't take credit for developing the electric string instruments. They've actually been around for decades. We do like to joke that they are the forgotten cousins of the electric guitar that just, need some love. But they've been around since essentially the same time, right? I think the 70s is probably when the first ones were coming out. But for us, they were a COVID project. It was when we had the time to actually delve into this thing that we were so curious about. Because at that point, we had been playing together for a couple of years, and we were already discovering that the sound, right, the worlds that we wanted to create in our music were it was too much for what the acoustic instruments could make. And so we were like, okay, we know
Why was it too much?
Just the sound, if you hear our music, oftentimes we are not just imagining a melody line and a bass line. It's like an IMAX movie. We're imagining an entire soundscape, right? Maybe pulled from our love of film and film soundtracks, but also our classical roots, right? We grew up playing in orchestras where you're immersed in sound.
I guess I'm familiar with the bigness of your sound. I just didn't know that kind of a classical instrument doesn't have that kind of, doesn't have that horsepower, that range.
Like a violin, right? It's what you see is what you get, right? You play that string and you can play it loud, but it's not going to fill a room or an arena, right?
Yeah. I think for both of us, we went on our individual journeys where we looked in the mirror and we thought about what kind of artists do we want to be. And for me, that happened, when I was 22.
Before you guys met?
Before we met. I took some time off after my undergrad degree and felt like the real world slapped me in the face, to be perfectly honest. I felt like my training at Juilliard and just training in general did not prepare me for the real world. I knew how to go into an audition, if I wanted to go and play in an orchestra. I knew how to teach. I knew how to perform, but I didn't know how to, write my own music. I didn't know how to learn by ear and jam with other artists. And so I went through a couple years of pretty dark depression where I asked myself, what kind of artist do I want to be? And I thought to myself, music is this incredible force that transcends boundaries and genres, and it touches people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what genre, you're playing to do that. And so I took it upon myself to go and educate myself in some of these other styles. And so I started playing jazz. I was like, oh, I love yo-yo ma. I also realized like, wow, I don't have any of the business skills that I need to make it as an artist. And so I started taking classes at NYU, Columbia, around management, fundraising, marketing, all these different things. I worked in like nonprofit settings for a while. I was like managing education programs. I was doing a lot of these things, like getting real life experience, all the while like doing different things with my art. And so all this to say, like, I feel like that journey started many years before Philip and I met.
Yeah, that you had each individually kind of thought about what kind of musicians you were.
Journey, playing a lot of like new music at school and working with composers and doing things that had never been done before. So that when we did meet at that jam, we were ready for each other. You know, it's like, well, the opportunity presented itself and we snatched it up.
Yeah.
If we had met years before that, neither of us would have been ready for that moment.
So you wanted to make it bigger, you wanted to make it more modern, and part of that was the instrumentation, but a big part of it is just the sound you guys have created, because this kind of electroacoustic thing, I mean, it is, I mean, I always see, you know, in descriptions of you, it's like the genre-defying electroacoustic duo. And it does feel like something that doesn't exist, even if there might be references. And I'd love for people to hear a little bit of it. Can we do that? Can we show and see a little bit of it? So let's see your
Ooh, which one should we start with?
I don't know. Where should we go?
We'll start with the electrics.
Start with the electrics. And what are you going to play? Tell us. Sorry.
So we're going to play an original tune of ours called Tokyo Sidecar, which is actually one of the first pieces that we ever wrote for these instruments.
God, guys, I'm such a groupie. I love it. It's so much better when it's a private performance. What? If you're just listening, you will see these kind of the electric cello, the electric violin, and you're playing with. Explain your process. Like, what are you've got these credit cards?
Yeah, I'm playing on my Amex Platinum.
Sponsored by Amex now, this podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, so like these are the electric violin and the electric cello that we were describing earlier. And for us, it's just like combining all of those years of classical training, which gave us the technique, right, to be able to express ourselves, combining that with just the literally unlimited possibilities when we start using and integrating technology. For us, that's the really exciting intersection. And that's where so much of the magic and discovery gets to happen. But
yeah. So you're like, okay, so you've got this thing, it's hooked into a computer. You could hear something in your ear.
Yeah.
And what are you hearing? Are you both hearing it?
Yeah, I was kind of leading this one.
You're listening through the speakers.
Yeah.
And so is it kind of being mixed in there?
Yeah.
The computer, what's the process?
Yeah. So like you said, the instrument is going through all these like boxes and cables, but eventually it's hitting the computer, and that's what's doing kind of all the heavy lifting. So just a little example, right? What the electric cello just sounds like kind of by itself.
Yeah.
It's going to give you a sound kind of like. right? It's kind of like what you'd expect a plucked instrument, a guitar, to sound like.
Yeah.
And so for us, the magic happens when we start playing with that as kind of our input, right? That's kind of the raw material we have to work with. But then we have all these tools to start manipulating that. So one of the basic tools that we have is something called a delay. Kind of think of it like an echo, you know? Sounds kind of like this.
So you're strumming once and it's echoing the sound
Exactly.
for you. And
Yeah.
through what program is this?
It's a program called Ableton Live.
Ableton, okay.
It's developed for DJs.
Yeah.
But now it's become like a bedrock of a lot of
Yeah.
live touring things.
But you know that when you see a band, sometimes you'll see a lot of, people playing have like hardware pedals. Have you ever
Yes.
seen like, it's essentially doing the same thing, but through the computer
So
instead.
the pedals have moved to the computer as
Yes.
opposed to there.
Yeah.
And then you're adding on this like very human percussion and like kind of innovative layer of like using your credit cards in your hand to tap your actual instrument, the bass of the instrument. That
Exactly, right. So for my role basically throughout the whole tune is I have this, it's called a patch. It's a patch of these stacked delays, right? That kind of echo idea. And we've layered a couple of them together. And that's what creates kind of the rhythmic groove that we hear.
Yeah.
Which the cello is kind of leading throughout the whole piece. And then we have a patch for Jonathan, which is kind of turning, because again, we were just experimenting and saying,
Yeah.
okay, what cool sound can Jonathan make? And so we created our own way so that when he knocks on the instrument, it kind of, let me see. There it is.
Yeah.
We call it the pebble knock.
These are like elements that you're adding in Ableton, or some of them are like kind of you write them and you're layering your own music on top of each
Yeah,
other, right?
exactly.
That's
It's
what
all
it
of the
is.
above.
It's all
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
that you've done, and it's kind of like layering and engineering that
All
happens.
creative choices.
Wow. Okay. And is it okay? Now, can we hear the classical to compare?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, do you want me to hold anything? I feel like I want
Be an honorary.
an honorary band member. This is so fun.
You want to hold the Amex too?
No, I want the string. I guess sorry, what is that called? The thing that you used to do?
This is the bow.
The bow, sorry. See, I know nothing about music, the bow. But I guess you need it. Here, I'm doing nothing of use, but it looks like I'm part of the band. And now we look like more of a band because we're three people.
It's three of us now.
We're an electro-acoustic trio. Trio.
Do you want us to try to as if we were covering our own song? Or do you want us
Yeah.
to...
I want to know a little bit like what it would sound like bare.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay? What are you going to do first?
I think we'll start with literally playing exactly what we played on the electric, so
Okay.
you'll hear how it doesn't sound the same.
Okay, so this
and
is-
then we'll use some of the techniques that we have for our acoustics
Okay.
to try to like...
We're going to call this the Naked Raw Dog.
The
And we'll call
Naked-
the other one the Naked Raw Dog Jam.
Naked
And
Raw Dog.
These
Thank
are
you,
also
Psycho.
probably
So you're gonna have-
on OnlyFans too, but yes.
Yeah. Okay, 1, 2... Let's get funky.
That was you guys. Okay, I love it.
That was us jamming
This
on
is
the-
the jamming.
Yeah, well, because
The naked jamming.
in the original, right?
Yeah.
With the electrics, is we're able to use some of those tools that we have.
Yeah.
To create, especially in this tune, layers of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
When we're on the acoustics, we don't have that, right? We don't have those like the echoes, right?
Right.
Which is a huge part of this tune.
But it sounded so cool. I mean, it's very cool. You obviously love the one that you've perfected.
I mean, they're
But
both
you're,
great.
like,
I
doing
mean,
the
they're
thing,
just
yeah.
totally different
It's just
tools, and so
But you've never done this before, where you just play the
We've
same.
never done a raw naked dog,
Of like
Tokyo Sidecar.
of that song, yeah. That's like that's like yeah.
But is it feel different? Like, is the instrument harder, different to play? The classical, is it more effortful one way or the other physically?
Not so much. I think they're just
different.
you know, and they it is kind of like with these acoustics, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just like if you pluck that guy,
Yeah. I'm gonna.
Oh, you can pluck it.
I love it. Okay, I'm gonna pluck it.
doesn't sound like anything, right? That's what it actually
And
sounds.
now you do it.
That's because
that's the
these
classical
instruments,
violin,
these acoustic instruments, they're vibrating. They're creating sound from the actual bodies
Yeah.
of the instruments.
Versus when I'm with this
that you need to be
this
plugged in. You need to be running.
electro-violin.
You need to be running through a speaker.
Yeah.
It's kind of
You
sad,
need the whole
right?
thing.
This
yeah.
was the amplifier of the 17th century. It's an acoustic amplifier.
It was an amplifier. That's
That's what the body of the instrument's doing. Is it's the same vibration of the string, but
make it
then
bigger,
it
bigger.
shakes through the whole body.
Yeah.
Now we have kind of all speaker technology and amplifiers that do that. But this was the technology of the time.
Can I ask you guys to jam and riff one more thing, which is the Bad Bunny? Can you do a little bit of Bad Bunny riffing?
On the electrics?
What would you do it on?
Let's do it on the acoustic.
Acoustics.
You do it on the acoustics.
Yeah.
Because why?
Well, because he has a very classy sound.
Love it. Impressive.
That was the song
Monaco.
Monaco.
That's just the intro that he.
Guys, thank you so much for giving me a little private performance. I want to ask you about your process of working together, because hearing you play and hearing you talk about your very romantic meet cute,
Yes.
I think it's inspiring for anybody who wants to do something in tandem with another person, whether that's be in a relationship, whether that's make a film, or whether it's like building a business together, right? Co-founders. I love how different your instruments are, how different your way of thinking and your approach and how you like to spend your time is. Like, you guys have traditionally talked about yourselves as the Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak personality types in your electroacoustic duo. Explain, translate that.
I mean, using
Who's
that
who?
example.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I mean, I know.
I'm Woz. John is Jobs.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there are different kinds of roles and functions that you have to have, right? To use this Jobs and Woz example, right? You need the visionary, the person, or to use another analogy, you need for the C-suite, you need a CEO, right? Who is actually planning the vision, right? Where are we going? What are the most important priorities? So,
Yes.
right, Steve Jobs was the visionary, right? Guys, you have to build this thing. I don't know how you're going to build it. There's not enough time. There's not enough money, but you have to figure out a way to do it, right? Sometimes infamously so.
Yes.
But he saw things that no one else could see, and literally, talking about manifest, he brought them into existence. And that's why he transformed the world. That's why we all have a supercomputer in our pockets.
Yeah.
But Steve Jobs was not the one in the garage, right, building the Lisa, right, the first those early computers, right? He needed the partner who had the technical knowledge to actually, okay, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
How are we going to achieve the vision? But I think you need both. And right, great partnerships look different, right, of what that division of skill sets look like. But
So, Philip, what you're describing, this Jobs-Woz duo, is so, Jonathan, you're the Jobs here. You're the CEO,
he was the one who had the 5-year vision with winning a Grammy.
Yeah, we know you're the strategic planner, and then Philip, you're kind of engineering, designing, mastering. How do you get there? At what point, Jonathan, did you guys decide this was the right analogy for your working relationship?
I think it was very clear from the moment we started working together.
What your skills were, or that it was
That we had
Jobs-Woz?
really complementary skill sets.
Yeah.
Like, I was much more vision oriented, kind of thinking about the why. Like, why are we doing this? What do we have to offer? How do we reach people? What makes us different and unique? And Philip would be like, okay, this is how we're going to build it. This is how we're going to make it possible. And very, very early into our kind of working relationship, from the moment that we couldn't be the Jonathan and Philip string duo any longer, it was kind of like, well, we have to build this. We have to have a website. We have to have a brand. We have to do all these things. And I turned to Philip and I was like, I don't know how to do those things. I don't know how to like record and create our own, videos and all these things. And Philip's like, oh yeah, I've just been doing all those things, over the years. And so there were a lot of things that just became very apparent from the early days.
And then it's like, if you put that as a list, okay, well, those are the things that Jonathan already likes doing or has a proclivity to doing.
Yeah.
And then these are the things that I like to do. And so as the task list just starts piling up and we start to find knowing our strengths and then also trusting each other more and more.
Yeah. What you really need for this kind of like duo to work in life, I think, is like for the Woz character, the engineer master, to want to go where the visionary wants to go, where the CEO is trying to drive to. You need to agree with his vision and you need to trust Philip's process, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Is that you need to buy into that vision and you need to trust that process.
Yes, the car's not going to drive itself. I think, well, maybe now it does. But,
I was going to say, literally, yes.
But no, absolutely.
And do you think that AI could replace the other partner for you? Nowadays, like we could like turn and you could be using chat or Gemini or whatever.
Maybe there are functional things, but and I think one of the amazing things about a partnership is that there are a person's skill set isn't just the synthesis and accumulation of task functions.
Yes.
Right. It's like, with Claude Cowork, right? We can go literally download skills now and be like, oh, you now have the skill of resume writing. But like a human being, in my opinion, is more than the sum of those parts or skills, right?
Yeah.
It's experience. In Jonathan's case, especially, it's intuition, like freaky good intuition.
Especially with the arts. The arts are so human.
Yeah.
And that's what speaks to people, right? And so that, I think people will be able to tell what is AI versus what is human, especially as the market gets more saturated with AI-generated art. And so with what we do, it's such a human experience. There's so much of this happens, like, sure, in the show, like responding to the audience in real time, connecting with the audience.
Yeah, human chemistry.
Absolutely. There are parts of what we do. Yeah, maybe some of the administrative things and some of the like...
Let's get AI to do our taxes.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't make mistakes.
So you can replace like certain functions to allow you guys to level up, but you're not going to like replace each other. You're not going to replace each other.
At the end of the day, I think... we're musicians, right?
Yeah.
We're professional musicians, but we're still running a startup. We're running a business at the end of the day. And we have to do all the things that any other business has to do. And so, maybe there's some of those remedial tasks that AI can take care of. But at the end of the day, you need vision.
Yeah.
You need someone that can build things and help realize that vision. And you need to be ever evolving and so that you can stay ahead of whatever else is happening in the marketplace.
Yeah, it's like that variable that is introduced by the two people that cannot come from just like one person or one computer.
Yep.
Since you guys have this very successful partnership, and I know that you argue sometimes, right? You never. Philip wants to perfect it, doesn't want to and you're like, let's get the deadline done. Like there's like the.
Actually, the opposite
Is
sometimes.
it really? Oh, really?
Last summer in Helsinki, going through mix 16F of one of the tracks on Brightside. Something like
17F.
Maybe 17F, yeah.
17 versions, 17 final was the F.
Well, it was 17, and then I started using letters to start denoting, right? So that's why we got to 17, A, B, C, D, E, F.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Yeah. What have you learned that translates into any relationship? Like, what are 3 relationship lessons that anyone can learn from your hit Grammy-winning duo?
Mm-hmm. Shared purpose.
Shared purpose?
Number 1. You have to be in it together, but aiming for the same thing, same meaning,
Okay. Number 2?
Humility. That when you're coming into, right, because you're inevitably going to butt heads at a certain point, and it's being able to take a step back, humble yourself. Sometimes after conflict, how do you reconcile, right? Because it's not an if conflict happens, it's when conflict happens, and how do you move past that?
Okay. How do you move past it?
I think with trust, which is the 3rd one.
Okay. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Trust.
There's so much trust that takes place. There are moments where I will lead and Philip will trust me in leading. The moments where I trust Philip to lead. And that give and take, I think, is really, really important and beautiful and necessary. I do not believe that if one person is always leading and the other person is following along or on the hook or whatever you want to call it, it just doesn't work that way. It's not equitable. It's not sustainable long term.
And then also, like, I'm curious, like, I feel like there's this like phase of your life where everybody's lives start feeling different. You're married, Jonathan, you're going to have a baby soon. Philip, you're not in that life phase yet.
Not in that phase yet.
How do you guys like kind of, stay, I guess you stay connected through work, but how do you look at that kind of seasons changing of your own lives and what that does to your creative process and your friendship?
I think, at least from my perspective, it's been an increasing awareness of how everything that we do affects the other person, and kind of we have such a uniquely intimate relationship, right? It's not just work and life, right? There's not really much of a distinction between those two things. And then, of course, right, there's also Jonathan's wife and soon-to-be family, right? All these things are interconnected. And so it's just been an increasing awareness and I'll say responsibility of like, how do we show up for each other, right? Even in a way of being work partners, how do we show up for the other, be considerate and thoughtful of the other, and keeping all those things in mind.
At the end of the day, I think both Philip and I love what we do, and there's nothing else we'd rather be doing,
Than play music together.
To play music together, to create music together, to travel. We have navigated every obstacle, every challenge that has been thrown at us. It's a beautiful thing that happens, and it's like, it's not a yes or no thing. It's very much a yes and so how are we going to navigate that?
You've never thought about breaking up?
I mean, there's been moments where the thought's like, this sucks. Like, this is really hard. And of course the thought like runs through your mind when you're red hot on emotion.
Yeah.
But then it cools down, and I totally agree with Jonathan. When you step back and say, what an opportunity we have, and how much not only joy it brings us, but joy it brings other people.
Yeah.
Like, that is the real, for me, the glue and the fuel.
Yeah.
It's like whenever you play a show and you have people, they've been moved.
Yeah.
Like, what a gift. It's
a superpower.
It is amazing. I think that is that's joyous to see. And when we were at the Sawdust, I asked you if you'd considered opening up your marriage, if you would ever make it an electro-acoustic trio. I mean, I can only imagine after playing with me on the electro violin.
It's a pretty strong audition.
I know you played with like Lindsey Sterling, but this really
think about this.
No, but have you? And at the time, it was very funny because Philip, you were engaged in what cultural anthropologists or evolutionary biologists call mate guarding. You were not open to the idea of inviting someone else to the mix at the beginning. Really? Remember this? And then you said Cynthia Erivo.
Oh, really?
And then all of a sudden Philip was like, so Jonathan was like Cynthia Erivo. And then all of a sudden Philip was like, oh, definitely Daft Punk. And then he started just like listing his entire hall pass. Right?
I mean, it depends on the nature of opening the relationship. Are we talking a long term? Are we talking a little quick? Is
it a one and done?
Yeah. No. So would you like, if you were to add a third instrument to your mix, could you even imagine that?
Instrument. I still go back to voice.
Yeah.
I think Cynthia is amazing, but people who have really inspired me recently, Rosalia. Incredible. Or another artist, that artist Ray? Badass. She's incredible. Absolutely amazing.
I feel like Rosalia is in such hot demand because Jacob Collier, when I asked him, who are a few people that you want to collab with, Rosalia was on the list too. Yeah.
She's doing something completely different, and it's just, wow. Beyond imagination.
I end every episode of Smart Girl Dumb Questions asking my guests what they are dumb about. You guys are, prodigious and wise in many ways, but what is a dumb question that you have that you've been embarrassed to ask out loud? Like when I asked you, what's that thing you play the string with? And you said it was a bow.
So I'm not sure if this constitutes a dumb question, but I am really curious why we aren't talking about going back to the moon more. Like, we're about to put people back on the moon for the first time since the 60s.
Yeah.
And it's like, not that everything is about how much it pops into your feed. Hopefully it pops into a few more people's feed now. But I don't know. I love space. And I love just that, humanity pushing boundaries and literally getting back into space.
So you're like, why are we so blasé about the moon
situation? It's barely a peep. It's like, the Winter Olympics were going on. Those were great. But I don't know. I'm super jazzed
they
about
happen every 4 years.
humans getting back into space.
Okay.
So, and
I love it. I'm going to interview a space architect so we can ask her about like my dumb question for her is like, is it smarter to buy a second home on the moon
get that moon real estate
than in Montauk? I don't even own a first home right now, so I would say that.
What's a better investment? Lunar real estate or metaverse real estate?
Yeah.
That's the question.
That's the question. Okay, great. I love it. Jonathan, what's a dumb question you have?
I'm just curious about what the future is for live robotics performance.
Live robotics performance?
Yeah, I mean, I saw this one video. I think it was...
this is where you think we're headed, to concerts of robots performing music?
It is something that is happening because I did see that, I think in Japan, like they had like robots that were playing string instruments. And it made me feel very confident, actually, because like
very, very confident in your humanness, not in the future.
Like, our job is safe.
Our job is safe for now because, you know, when you pick up a string instrument, it's a very hard instrument to play.
Yeah.
You sound like dying cats for the first few years. Those robotics sound like dying cats.
Yeah.
And so I think we're okay
but
there.
But their few years are like, you know, their few years happen in like 2 months.
So that's my question. Is like, how long do we have until we get replaced by, you know, the robot orchestra?
Okay. Hopefully it's not going to happen.
Hopefully never.
Oh, guys.
And they will never be as musical.
You know what?
It's not possible.
I'm going to keep coming to your concerts. You're going to keep giving me private concerts that we don't need to go to the robot people's events. Okay. Thank you guys so much for being with me. You guys rock. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Nayeema.
Thank you, guys. I had so much fun hanging out with my friends, Jonathan and Philip, as we talked about all things ARKAI. I mean, the conversation really started about how do you become successful? How do you win a Grammy? And I was insightful into that process. But what I really appreciated was the Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak of their relationship. And so much, I think, of what we explore on the show is how to have good relationship, how to be good in relationship. And what I really liked was actually this idea of like them being in different seasons of their life and how they make this relationship, which is a bit of a primary relationship, still work with their other relationships in their lives. And I think all of us kind of grapple with that as we are kind of multidimensional and figuring all of that out. So just an interesting lens into this world, and we'll see how that evolves over time. But I hope they stay together and don't get into any threesomes, except if it's with Lindsay Sterling, who we love. That's it for this week on Smart Girl Dumb Questions. I'm your host, Nayeema Raza. This episode was produced with Desta Wonderad, Melissa Lee Gibson, Sanjana Nagam, Aisha Jordan. It was edited by Davey Chin, mixed and engineered by Johnny Simon. Our theme music is by David Kahn. Their music is by ARKAI. We'll see you next week for an all-new Smart Girl Dumb Questions. And please hit follow and subscribe on this show. Share it with people in your life who love music, who are in relationship, who want to understand how to win a fucking Grammy, because you too can do it if you can also run a successful political campaign and also, P.S., make great music. That's the first bit. That's the first piece.